Hi guys, welcome back to Football Heaven 24/7. I'm your host Jamie again. Um, right, I'm going to do a rundown of all the weekend's action from the Premier League straight through to League Two with my drawbridge eyebrows as usual. Um, right, so we're going to jump straight into it. There ain't no surprise who's still top of the Premier League. Everyone knows Manchester City are on fire. They went 1-0 down on Saturday against West Ham away, and they still ended up winning 3-1 in the second half. Goals from Doku, a new guy that come in from a French team, Bernardo Silva and Erling Haaland continued to keep Manchester City's 100% record up. It's now 5 wins out the first 5 of the season. As I say, they are top by 2 points over Tottenham, Liverpool and Arsenal, who will have 4 wins and a draw in their opening 5 games. So they won 3-1. Ward-Prowse got the opening goal for West Ham, but it just wasn't enough in the end. In front of a sellout crowd, 62,475 at the London Stadium. Now, going to go into the other games of the weekend. Manchester United continue to do really poorly. They sit down in 12th in the table, and that is because they lost 3-1 at home to Brighton at the weekend. They were 3-0 down in the game as well, thanks to goals from Welbeck, Gross and João Pedro. And they got a goal back through Hannibal, one of their young players, which was an absolute screamer. But in the second half, but it wasn't enough for Manchester United. As I say, they lost 3-1. Liverpool likewise came from behind away at Wolverhampton Wanderers. They were 1 goal down in the 7th minute through Hwang. Can't pronounce the rest of his name, unfortunately. Liverpool then scored through Gakpo, Robertson and an own goal from Breno and gave them that 3-1 win. So good comeback from them as well. Same as Manchester City. That keeps Liverpool in 3rd in the table. Tottenham came from behind against Sheffield United. You would think on paper they would have found this game a lot easier, but Gustavo Hamer gave Sheffield United a lead, and goals from Richarlison and Kulusevski deep into injury time at the end of the game gave Tottenham a much needed 2-1 win to keep up. Ange Postecoglou's great start to the season. The former Celtic manager is doing brilliantly at Tottenham as they lie in 2nd at the moment. Newcastle got back on track, winning 1-0 at home to Brentford. Also, Fulham beat Luton narrowly 1-0, and Crystal Palace and Aston Villa came from 1-0 behind at home to Crystal Palace to win 3-1. Goals from Duran, Douglas Luiz and Bailey. Both Douglas Luiz and Bailey's goals were in injury time. So there was a lot of goals being scored, or winning goals scored in injury time in a couple of the games in the Premier League. But like I say, the table is Manchester City at the top, Tottenham 2nd, Liverpool 3rd, Arsenal 4th. Brighton's just outside in 5th. Down in the relegation zone, it's Everton, Burnley and Luton. Tonight in the Premier League, well, I should mention actually first, there was 2 games on Sunday. Bournemouth drew 0-0 with Chelsea, and Everton lost narrowly at home to Arsenal 1-0. Leading goal scorer is still Haaland with 7 goals, and then you've got Evan Ferguson of Brighton, who's only 18 or something daft, and Edouard both with 4 goals behind Haaland in the league standing. So that's what's going on there. Tonight, it's my team Forest up against Burnley. It's on Sky Sports. I'll be watching it. I think that Forest will win that game, and I'm going to say 3-1 for Forest. Burnley have been shipping goals left, right and centre. I know it's got to change at some point they've got to get something on the board, but I fancy Forest to get to a 3-1 win. I fancy Taiwo Awoniyi to get a couple of goals, and possibly Morgan Gibbs-White if I'm doing predictions on it all. So that's what I think, 3-1 for tonight's game. Jumping into the Championship, still top of the table is Preston. Preston won 2-1 at home to Plymouth, and that keeps them top of the table. Leicester City had a fantastic win on Friday night. They won 4-1 away at Southampton. Now, Southampton have let in 9 goals in the last 2 games now, having lost to Sunderland 5-0 in the previous game. It's not looking great for Southampton. Southampton dropped outside of the playoff places, and they're now down in 9th because of that result. Hull City on Friday night drew 1-1 with Coventry. Not a bad result for either of those 2 teams. And looking at other games from the Saturday games in the Championship, Blackburn won 2-1 against Middlesbrough. Bristol City drew 0-0 with West Brom. Cardiff, in their massive South Wales derby against Swansea, condemned Swansea to stay in the relegation places by winning 2-0, and they moved further up the table into 15th, a bit safer in the league, with a fantastic 2-0 win. Goals from Tanner and Aaron Ramsey in his first season back at Cardiff since he was 19, which was about 15 years ago, I think, or 40 years ago, something like that. Anyway, and Huddersfield won 2-0 in the Yorkshire Derby. Norwich beat Stoke 1-0. QPR continue their bad home form, losing 3-1 against Sunderland. Sunderland on fire at the moment, 8 goals in the last 2 games. Sheffield Wednesday lost 1-0 against Ipswich. And other game, the last game in the Championship on a Sunday. Battle of 2 of the nuttiest fans in the Championship, Millwall and Leeds United. Leeds United came out on top thanks to 2 goals from Joel Porro and 1 from Rutter. Gave them a 3-0 victory away at Millwall, and that moved Leeds up to 10th in the table. So after a slow start for Leeds starting to put it together now. I think Leeds will probably push on and end up in the playoffs, I think, if I'm being honest. Or they may even get it to automatics. But it's looking very interesting in the Championship. Preston are top, surprisingly. No one expected them to be up there. But Ryan Lowe's, their manager's doing a fantastic job. Leicester are in second in the Championship. And then in the playoffs, you've got Ipswich, Norwich City, Hull City and Birmingham City. And then down in the relegation zone in the Championship, currently it's Swansea City, Sheffield Wednesday and Middlesbrough, who have had a really, really poor start to the season, Middlesbrough. Will Michael Carrick get sacked? Don't know. He did turn it around from a position like this last season when he took over from, I can't remember the manager that used to be in charge of Sheffield United, Chris Wilder, that's the one. So yeah, that's what's going on in the Championship. So I'm going to jump into League One, and in League One, Barnsley beat Burton 2-0. Derby drew 1-0 with Portsmouth. Exeter won 1-0 at home to Cheltenham. Fleetwood lost 3-0 at home to Oxford United. Lincoln drew 1-0 with Carlisle. Peterborough drew 1-0 with Leyton Orient. Port Vale won 1-0 against Northampton. Reading came from behind against Bolton to win 2-1. Shrewsbury lost 2-0 at home to Rovers. Great win for Bristol Rovers there. One of my local teams not too long ago when I used to live in Bristol. Stevenage drew 1-0 with Charlton. Wigan won 2-1 at home to Cambridge. And Wycombe won 2-0 against Blackpool. How the table looks in League One, you've got Exeter at the top, Port Vale in second. And then in the playoffs, you've got Oxford United, Stevenage, Barnsley and Portsmouth. Down in the relegation zone, you have Reading, Burton Albion, Cheltenham and Fleetwood Town are at the bottom. Top goal scorer in League One is Devante Cole with 8 goals, so he's doing really good. He's actually playing almost as good as his dad back in the 90s, but not quite. Because he's playing in League One, he's not playing in the Premier League. Right, so that's what's going on in League One. Jump into League Two finally for the roundup of the weekend's action. Top of the table still in the League Two is Gillingham. Gillingham, they drew 1-2-1 at home to Harrogate Town, and that put them top of the table. Notts County continue their great start to the season, having come up from the conference last season, and they got a good 2-0 victory on Friday night away at Gary Neville's Salford City. So that kept them in second. Swindon Town are on really, really good form at the moment. They move into that final automatic promotion place currently, having got a 2-0 win at home to Walsall. That is now something insane, like I think it's 11 goals in the last 3 games for Swindon at home. So they're absolutely smashing it. In fact, it's more than that. It's actually 13 goals. So they've been doing absolutely fantastic at home, Swindon, this season so far. Goals from Charlie Austin and Hepburn Murphy for Swindon in that game. So they've done fantastic there. And then also, I'll just read through all the other results in League Two. AFC Wimbledon and Crewe. It was a football for a fiver down at Wimbledon, and they put on quite a good show. Wimbledon were leading 2-1 right till the 10th minute of injury time, when Nevitt got an equaliser for Crewe to give them a 2-2 draw there. Accrington Stanley beat Sutton United 4-1. Bradford drew 1-1 with Harrogate Town. I actually said Harrogate Town were playing at Gillingham. I got that wrong. Morecambe were playing at Gillingham and lost 2-1. Colchester United drew 1-0 with Mansfield. Crawley Town beat Tranmere Rovers 3-2. Forest Green continued their really, really poor start to the season, having come down from League One. They lost 2-1 at home to also a relegation threatened team. Well, looking like they were in League Two at the moment. Doncaster Rovers, they lost 2-1. to them. MK Dons lost 2-1 against Stockport at home. Newport drew 1-1 with Barrow. Wrexham continue their great start to the season, and they're lying in fourth at the moment, looking like they could get automatic. With Notts County, both those teams came up from the conference. Both teams were expected to do fantastic because of the way that they absolutely annihilated the conference last year. Good 3-0 win against Grimsby there. Goals from Ollie Palmer, Boyle even, and Elliot Lee, who scores quite a few goals for Wrexham as well. So they're still doing really well, even without their top scorer, Paul Mullen, who's going to be out injured probably for most of this season. Injured it in pre-season, as a lot of people might know that have been following Wrexham since they had that fantastic takeover from Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. So anyway, we're going to go. That's what's going on there with the League Two. Gillingham atop, Notts County in second, Swindon in third. Playoffs: Wrexham, Mansfield, Crawley Town, and Crewe. And down in the relegation places, we've got Tranmere and Sutton United. Top goal scorer is Jake Young, who came on loan from Bradford to Swindon Town, and he's got 9 goals already this season in only playing in 8 games, 7 games even. So he's got 9 goals in 7 games, which is, he could be the Erling Haaland of League Two this season. So who knows if he doesn't get injured. So that's what's going on there with all the teams for the weekend review. Games that stand out. Was there any shocks? Not really. There wasn't many shocks this weekend in any of the leagues. Pretty much most of the games went as you'd probably expect. Reading did get a cheeky win against Bolton, but they were playing at home, but I don't think that's much of a shock. Brighton, I suppose you could say, is a shock, but not really, because Man United are playing absolutely awful at the moment. But it's a fantastic win. Anyone that can win 3-1 at Manchester United is doing really, really well. So fair play to them. But yeah, that's what's going on for the whole weekend. Grateful to all those that like and subscribe to my channel. It has dipped a bit recently, so you all need to pull your finger out a bit. But at the end of the day, grateful to everybody. If you can get your friends and family involved, get them tuning in. I will do the reviews back on Sunday like I was doing before. I mean, to be honest, I'm giving you the news a couple of days after it's happened. But that's what's going on anyway. Like I say, Forest to win tonight, 3-1, my prediction. Might sound biased, but we've got a lot of great new players in, and I think they're all going to click into gear tonight. So have a good one, whoever you support, and I'll come back and do another episode doing predictions for this week's games, including EFL Cup and also the weekend's action coming up on Saturday and Sunday. Bye for now. All the best.